Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson. My co host LD is doing on a mission, as I call it, and he will be here in a week or two. But at this time, you're joining Glenda's Dragons Den, and we have a phenomenal guest. Maureen, how are you?
I'm doing great, Glenda. How are you?
Oh, perfect, perfect. Um, so, we have been talking and we have discovered we have a lot of similarities.
We're like soul
First is
sisters.
we live in Pennsylvania, which is really hard to get, imagine that. Um, and, we have a background in law offices,
We do.
which is very interesting. Um, but enough of me talking about your life. What you tell us? Let the audience get to know you.
What would you like to know?
Well, how did you get to here?
Oh, there's a lot there. We unpack this one. So, I guess I've had abilities since I was a child,
Mhm.
and um, I didn't always know that I had abilities. My parents kind of dismissed it; they didn't address it. Um, I thought I was like everybody else. I thought everyone else had abilities as well. I thought I was just like everyone else until um, I had said something to one of my parents one day about um, the lights going out when we would drive under them every time we would go under a traffic light or the lights on the highway. Um, I noticed the car in front of us at one point, it wasn't going out for them. I thought that when you would go under the lights, you didn't need the lights anymore. So I thought that it was really interesting that they knew that they were saving electricity somehow. And they both kind of turned and looked at me, and they never noticed it. They never noticed that the lights would go out. So I noticed a little bit later that they never addressed it. And then when we came home, I lived in a pretty volatile household as a kid. And when my parents would fight, I would get angry because I didn't want, at that point in time in the 80s, it was pretty rampant that people were getting divorces, and it kind of, was on an upswing.
Right.
So when I would get angry because of that, the lights would flicker or light bulbs would shatter. And then um, they would start to notice that. So that just kept increasing and increasing. And I noticed at one point when my anger was at its worst, I, I noticed light bulbs would start to shatter. Then it was fires would start because of the filaments or whatever. So I kind of got my anger under control because I didn't want to be like my parents. I didn't want to be constantly fighting. So I realized that if I just kind of kept to myself, I became a loner. I read a lot. I would read a book a night. Stephen King, of course. I was the kind of the weird kid. I was the black sheep in the family. I just really, I kept to myself quite a bit.
Mhm.
So I started to notice that there were always these people that were standing around, or beings that would stand around my bed. And someone had asked me, "What are they?" And I said, "The Watchers." I didn't realize I had a name for them until that moment. And when I
Mhm.
looked up what the Watchers were, in the Bible, the Watchers are actually demons. But I think a lot of people they misconstrue what demons are. They're not necessarily like bad. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't use bad or good, I use positive and negative. I think bad
Right.
and good is a really strange terminology. Um, Demons can be used for positive and negative. If you use, say, for instance, Pazuzu. Pazuzu was used in the movie The Exorcist. Pazuzu is actually a fertility god. And if you have the right intention and the right perception, things can be positive. But so many people are so hooked on the negative part of demons that that's all they see them for. I don't necessarily call upon them. So I don't use the demons for what, but these things they've been around me. They've taken care of me. I have been, I've had several near-death experiences. I've passed over twice. I've been hurt as a child and never felt the pain from it. So, you know, I've had many things that have transpired, but my abilities have ramped up quite a bit from the time I was a child. And I became very ill in 2016 to the point where I literally blacked out at work. When I came to, all of my senses were heightened. It's an autonomic disorder that I must have had since I was a child. And now going back to that point, I do remember having trouble breathing, you know, exercise intolerance and all these different things, but it was at an extreme. And when it's like a fight or flight response with your autonomic system, and all your other senses are heightened, why not your sixth sense? So I had noticed that there were people walking around inside my house. There was music playing out of my pantry, and it was crazy at that point, because you're dealing with all of these health issues, but also now you're dealing with the paranormal being completely ramped up after having it through your whole life. But people called you crazy or stupid, or, you know, it was ridiculous or it was foolish. And now you have to figure out what's wrong with you. And it's not just one, you know, rare chronic disease, but there are like 5 or 6 other ones, and seeing 57 different doctors and no one can figure out what's wrong with you because you have all these different symptoms and they're crisscrossing over to other diagnoses. It could be almost anything at that point. So no one was helping. Everyone was walking away saying that it was, you know, psychological. Luckily, I was working in an office where I was helping other people figure out what was going on with them because they needed to apply for Social Security disability. And I'm a really good researcher. And I was saying, well, you know, if you get this test done, it will lead to this. I had, you know, this was a great thing for me because it helped me. And luckily I became diagnosed, and the doctors were blown away because I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I was literally dying. My organs all shut down. You know, they gave me 10 years in 2016 to live. So I'm not lucky in the fact that that's what's still happening, but I'm capable of helping other people, and I get to see my loved ones on a regular basis, whereas most people wouldn't.
Yep. And, you know, like you were saying that your abilities and you saw the waters, they were probably brought on by a lot of the fighting.
It could have been, because even as a really, really young child, which is, you know, when I do, and this is really strange because a lot of people, I really listen carefully to when other people tell stories, because when it's happening to you, you tend to notice more. Like when you buy a certain vehicle, you tend to see them more often on the street.
Right.
Like, so when someone else is telling, you know, what's the first memory you have of this ability or whatever, everyone says age 3 or 4. Do you notice that?
Yep. I say earlier than that because I did have my abilities earlier than that.
Yeah. So I've noticed people saying 3 or 4. The very first time I remember something happening was, I think I was about 3 or 4 years old. My parents were sitting on the front porch with the neighbors. And I think I tell this story almost every time I'm on a podcast or, you know, radio. I was plugging in a night light, and it was about, you know, this big. So it was way bigger than my little tiny hand.
Right.
And it was a goldfish. It was see-through. It was orange and it had little sparkles inside of it. And I was touching the prong and I went to plug it in and only one prong entered the thing. And my parents were sitting on the front porch with all the neighbors and it was getting dark. And I remember looking up and one of those watchers was standing behind me with their hand on my shoulder. And I say they because there were no he, she.
Right.
It was gender neutral.
Mm-hmm.
There was no male or female voice. It was just very calming. And it wasn't coming out of their mouth. It was coming out of their head into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't scream. It didn't hurt. But I'll tell you, there was a black singe mark and it went through a couple layers of skin. And I went outside and I said, Mommy, look. And she let out this blood curdling scream. The neighbors were all running. You know, they were putting ice on. They were trying to figure out what to do next. It didn't hurt, but it looked like it did. I mean, I still remember exactly what happened. I remember what I was wearing. That's something.
Well, that was a big thing. It wasn't, you know, like mom and dad said no to something. It was something major. So
yeah. So I mean, it's going back that far and then having, and I remember like, I'm sure you'll probably even remember this, like you don't have family growing up that's, you know, they're not gypsies, they're not witches, they're not into the supernatural, they're probably against it, especially if they're, you know, Irish Catholic or strict Protestant. So you have, first of all, their families were probably against them getting married. I had an Irish Catholic mother. I had an English Protestant father. His whole family, they were all ministers. They built churches, you know, whatever. My mother was Irish Catholic. They were dancers, singers. They were drinking when they were partying, you know, like everything.
Right. Everything opposite there.
Yeah. You know, and the only spirit that she believed in was the Holy Spirit and any of her family members coming back. So besides that, she didn't believe in any of it. My father didn't say a word about anything that I talked about. Nothing. Not a little peep. And I was just the weird one. So when I would talk about things, they would clam up. They would tell me I was crazy. It was not at all. It was like taboo, you know? And they would even turn off TV shows. Like they didn't want me to watch like Bewitched. That was, but when I was young, I remember my sister and I having a clock in our room and it would say 11:11. And I would say, it's 11:11. Let's have a dance party. Where would it come from? You know what I mean? Like, why was that so special to me? And she would do the same. And then she started getting that, like, okay, let's have a dance party. And my mother would come in and say, what are you doing? And I said, we're having a dance party. It's 11:11. And she'd say, clean your room. I still to this day, like all the numbers, you know, all the numbers are, you know, crazy to us. But my mom came to visit me after she passed away and she said, I'm really sorry. I didn't believe you. My father came to me without my mother knowing and said, my father was sitting on the end of my bed. And I said, and no one believed me. No one believed me. Why is it so hard to believe that if your science teacher says that you move your desk and there's matter, and I remember going over this with them in homework, if you move a desk and there's matter left behind, and I would go, and they would literally walk away from, and my mother was a teacher.
Yeah.
You have somebody with big personalities like us, and we're at a party and we drop dead. Where the hell do you think we're going to go? You know what I mean? Like, our meat suit's going to be on the floor, but we're still probably dancing.
Yeah. It's still probably enjoying that party.
I saw my mother in Mexico after, like, during my wedding with a margarita in her hand. And I tried to tell my father, and he literally walked away from me. He didn't want to know. They don't want to know. It's sad. Yeah. If you love your wife that much and you really miss her that much, wouldn't you want to know that she's there with a margarita and she's happy and she's dancing again? That was her favorite
I
place.
would think that I would want to know, that they're there with me in the same place, like actually enjoying and seeing the wedding or whatever. It's like, no,
Yeah,
but, you know, unfortunately, fear has been big part of everybody's life. And
because it's the unknown.
yeah, yeah, the unknown. Everything that's unknown.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem, and it's a shame because humans have a lot more abilities than they realize.
Yeah.
Uh
I think when they feel something like the energy that comes up behind them,
huh.
they know it's something. I think they just get so freaked out by that. But in reality, it's probably typically their family members.
Hmm.
Why would you be afraid of your family members? Is it just because they're not in their meat suit? you know?
Who could go through walls? Oh man,
I
I
would
wish I
love
could do that.
someday, Glenda, someday we'll give each other a high five through the door.
Oh Lord. So a mayor, huh?
I was a mayor. I was. People look at me and they're like, the purple, pink hair, whatever. Yep, all of it.
So what was that about? Like,
So, um, I we had an incident in our neighborhood where our police department was disbanded. It was too expensive. The neighborhood I grew up in is the neighborhood I still live in,
mhm,
and it's weird because people say that it's an affluent neighborhood.
mhm,
And in reality, it can look that way because of the taxes and some of the people who live here. It's kind of split into sections. Um, there's the lower part of our development, which it was an old shanty town.
mhm,
And it did have a coal mining area. So that began in like 1785, which is really weird when you think about it, because when I was growing up, I thought, okay, this is our town. It's filled with doctors, lawyers, accountants,
mhm.
and the likes. And I never really thought about that until I became mayor. And then I started to see the difference. And I
Mm,
started doing genealogy in the background, and I started to get like newspaper clippings. And it was really cool to see what was there.
mm,
So there are some people that pay $700 in taxes. And then there's one person that pays $17,000 in taxes. There are people in the middle. So it actually is a blue collar
right.
neighborhood. So there
Mhm,
are people who it started in like 1968. And my godfather, he was actually one of the people who bought a lot of the land right
mhm,
off the bat and started selling it to people, which is how my parents got their land. We have an area which is very, very wealthy. We have some of the
mhm.
biggest malpractice attorneys. We have some judges. We have some doctors. And then my parents are upper middle class. Well, my dad still owns his house, but um, I live in an area that's townhouses, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of elderly people, younger people, people who are just starting out. They have young children. There's snow removal, whatever. So we had um, almost no crime, almost none. I mean, we literally grew up leaving our car keys in our cars. We didn't even
Mhm.
lock the doors. We didn't, close our windows, whatever. So the previous mayor and we call them her cronies. They were, and she was elderly. I mean, like to the point where she was in her late 80s. They were covering up corruption and
Oh,
crime, and a lot of things were happening. So the previous council to hers they were running, and they wanted to figure out a way to get them to stop the regionalization of the police department that they were trying to get. It would have raised the taxes by 90%.
Wow.
Because of the people who built their homes in 1968, they were like my parents, the neighbor. We had a whole street filled with kids my age.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those kids are now my age. So it's their parents and all of my second parents, third parents, fourth parents, you know, the people who would say, get your ass in, the street lights on.
Right, right.
I wanted to help protect them
Mm-hmm.
from having to increase their taxes.
That's a lot.
They would have lost their homes.
Yeah.
So would I. I mean, it's a lot of money. So, like the average taxes here are, you know, $3,000 to $7,000 a property. So when the council members were running to, you know, take over, I kind of have a big mouth, and I say it like it is. And I was really concerned for these people because they were going to lose their homes. And I said, I will never watch my family lose their homes. I will never watch my second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth families lose their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I will do anything I need to do to fight that. Right. And they said, we need a mayor. Okay. So I did a statistical analysis, and I included the FBI, state police, our local police departments in our area that had the same amount of citizens within their towns. Right. And then I doubled it, and then I did one from like across the state. Based on what we had, we literally had no rapes, murders, nothing. We had a couple of car accidents, and I said that this statistical analysis basically does not indicate that we have a need for any police department, especially since PSP, Pennsylvania State Police, and they are fantastic, and I will back them up 100%. Mm-hmm. They literally drive in. We are right off the highway by like a quarter of a mile. They can drive in, come through, and then drive back out. So I became mayor, and then
good a reason as any.
The council members that we replaced started calling in every kind of crime you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So it just got worse and worse, but the taxes did not go up 90%. We signed ordinances so that there was no way that they could keep calling in crimes. I signed an ordinance for 10 o'clock curfew, 10 o'clock noise. They couldn't park their cars in the parking lot at the borough building to make it look like something was happening there. Mm-hmm. There was a bunch of drug activity that was going on at the park, at the children's park. That was stopped. There was a lot that was fixed. Yeah. And I'm very proud of the work that I did. We had a vendor event, and we raised, it was actually raining that day. So the food trucks went to a different event, and they called and said that they were canceling because this event just suddenly showed up. I was flipping burgers and hot dogs, and I raised $600 for a volunteer fire department. But it was a really awesome run, and I enjoyed it very much. And I got to know the citizens that live here, and they were amazing people. Some of them were not so amazing, but I learned a lot. I love the people that live here. I love my town. I would do it again if I needed to. And I believe that everybody should serve civilly for some reason or another, and they should at least serve one term. Mm-hmm. I didn't really get paid, so it's not like it was for the money. It was more stress than anything else. I actually patrolled the neighborhood in my car at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And it was fun.
Interesting.
It was really interesting. I got to play with the kids. We got to do a lot of cool stuff. I planted trees in memoriam of a couple of teenagers who lost their lives in a fire. There happened to be an arson, and that should never happen to somebody.
No. So it sounds like you've had a very interesting life.
You couldn't say that again.
But I like the fact that you became your own advocate for your medical issues,
Yes.
because that is something I tell everyone. Don't just accept what they're saying. Make sure that it resonates,
Yeah.
and make sure that you keep doing everything you can.
You'll know if there's something that is wrong. You'll
Yeah.
feel, use your intuition. I say this to
Mhm.
everybody, use your intuition for anything, whether it's, that, or if you feel like you shouldn't make a left at a light, whatever it might be, but definitely for medical reasons, because you know your own body. You've lived in it for how long? And it's unfortunate that there are people out there, and I don't want to say that they're too stupid to know. It's ignorance. If you are not educated in the medical field, or if you don't know enough about insurance, or if you don't know enough how to apply for benefits, or if something, if if you still are stuck, you can call me anytime. I will always help someone when
Mhm.
it comes to that, because your health is more important than anything that you have. I don't care what, gold bars, money, your home, your
Yep.
cats and dogs, and all of those things are important, yes, but you're not going to get anywhere unless you have your health.
Yep.
And I'm one that can definitely tell you that.
I could tell you that myself too. When I was going through all that, basically the doctor said, "Here's your choices, because we know you're about choices. You could continue working as a paralegal and die very quickly. Like, we give you maybe a year, because lupus and everything was very active
Yeah.
and it was affecting all the organs, or you can stop that. Go take care of your medical stuff. Go get your treatments. Go get everything, hopefully, to come down, and then do little things so you can still live life, but not in that stressful situation." Because anybody that works for attorney in the law field, that is, everything is stress,
It
and more
is.
stress.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would like to mention is, mine started with a disease. Well, not even a disease. It's a syndrome. It's a syndrome that I was born with and
Hmm.
didn't know about, but it worsened because of black mold. And you can't. I mean, sometimes you can smell it, but you won't know it. That you won't know that it's there. And the OSHA has no. Um, they don't have any like ordinances for mold, but they do for everything else. There
Hmm.
needs to be something done about that. um, I think more people need to like sign petitions and follow up on it and do something about it, because honestly, the black mold is what shut down all of my organs.
Hmm.
And it makes me really, really angry that it got to this point. And then
Yeah.
because of the fact that the doctors were not following up and they weren't listening to me, that's what, made it progress further.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's why
It,
I'm where I'm at now.
and it's not that, we're saying, don't trust the doctors or don't trust whatever, but question it. If you're not you don't feel like you got the full um, amount of information that you really need, then get a second, a third.
Or
Go.
if you still feel sick
Yeah.
and you're not getting the test, like there may be a different test or another test, or if they're still saying no, that's, I've done everything I possibly there. It's not that they've done everything that they possibly can. There's definitely more out there that can be done,
Hmm.
always.
Yeah. I had to go myself from Jersey to New York City to get all the proper testing done and all the right doctors set in place and all that, because they would say, "Oh, it's just pain, da 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 da, and here's the prescription for painkillers." No, I don't want painkillers.
Yeah,
I want to
I think
know.
even to you actually.
Yeah, I want to know exactly what it is that is not only causing the pain, but the tiredness, the fainting, the the sometimes so much anxiety that you feel like you want to take your skin off, because
Yeah.
you know feeling like I'm sick every day and my organs not working right, and people thinking I'm having strokes and all that other stuff. So it's important.
Yeah,
Important.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it should never get to that. I didn't just go to, like, I went to a PCP, I
Mm-hmm.
went to a nephrologist, I went to a cardiologist, I
Mm-hmm.
went to a neurosurgeon. Once I went through the whole gambit of all the different doctors, then I
Mm-hmm.
went to a holistic doctor. That was the doctor that found what was wrong with me. But I had to pay for that because regular insurance doesn't pay for
Nope.
holistic doctors. She ran a whole battery of tests and found that there was mold in my body. And it took $700 for an office visit. And then she loaded up a huge bag of supplements. And every time I went back, she'd add more. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like $1,200 a month in supplements. It's very expensive, but at least I figured out what was wrong while I was there. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went back to the regular doctors. And I
Right.
switched to my PCP, which was the best thing I ever did because the one I go to is freaking amazing. And when the first time he walked in, he had a notebook filled with notes from me. And he's like, I will do whatever it takes to help you. I
Mm-hmm.
love a challenge. And let's just hit at whatever the first 5 things are. And then we'll do the next, appointment.
There you go. And that is
Great
what you
doctors.
need. That's a doctor. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you need. Not somebody who's just looking to put band-aids on things.
Right.
Right. So now I know somebody has this question, so I'm just going to ask. Did you use your abilities while you were a mayor?
I did.
Okay. Good
So
for you.
this is how I use them though. So at the beginning, everything was like happy. We all got along. And then all of a sudden, council members, they finally realized that I wasn't just a dumb blonde that they could like get in to get me to have because the people here liked me so much that it was like, okay, so we're going to make her like the voice and the face of this. Like I
Right.
was just the billboard.
Uh-huh.
I was the one that did the statistical analysis to show, look, we don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it was my ex-husband who was also law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And when he spoke for the very first time, they were like, they did, like, it didn't make sense. And then I stood up and I said, and this is what I'm going to tell you. And I quoted whatever I put up on this like
Right.
board. And I said, this is the reason why we don't need this and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden they were like grumbling about me. And then I said to my ex-husband, when I go into this meeting tonight, this is what's going to happen. And I put like big steel walls up around me.
Right.
And when I walked in, they were like, good evening, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's better act like that. The next time I came in, I didn't put the steel walls up and they were sitting like this, waiting for me. And I go, good evening, everyone. And then they were like, they didn't know what to do. So then I put the steel walls up and then everyone was on the edge of their seats. So it was like the exact opposite.
Right.
Because I could put those walls up at like the drop of a hat, because it's whatever my intuition is going to be.
Right.
I wanted them to be on the edge of their seats. Mm-hmm. So the attorney and the solicitor was our local DA.
Right.
And we would sit next to each other and we'd elbow each other or like pinch each other and we'd laugh because of certain things that would happen. And they had no idea what we were doing the entire time. We would like literally sit next to each other every time. And he'd lean over and he'd go, did you read my text? And I like, So then we would be in cahoots together. Mm-hmm. These people had no idea what they were doing the entire time. And I had never done this before, but I'm not stupid.
They underestimated you.
They did.
You're a woman.
They thought I was the little blonde girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I came in with a purple mohawk and they were like, I don't have to look the way you want me to. The kids thought it was the best thing ever. I was like, you underestimate. Every time I come in here, I'm going to be something totally different to throw you off. It doesn't matter. The volunteer fire department loved me. I brought them cookies for like St. Patrick's Day. Something horrible, the arson happened, and I brought them this really beautiful cross with like the American flag, and they were so grateful. And they didn't like each other either. And I said, I'm not going to run again. If the people want me, they will vote me. They were writing my name in. And I was like, okay, so now the fire department, they want to vote themselves in, because they started to hate each other. It was just constant. So yeah, I would use my abilities anytime. I didn't body jump anybody, but I didn't have to. It would just go the way I wanted it to go.
The thing is, it's like with me, I used to use my abilities when I was paralegal to, oh wait, there's still some facts that are missing, or and then I would know that I had to research more or look at a certain case in more detail. Or when somebody would come in and give me the biggest sack of BS that there was, and then I was like, okay, that doesn't sound right. That just doesn't sound right, but I'll play along.
I use my abilities at the law firm all the time. This guy actually came in my office, like the whole downstairs was my office, but I had an office.
Right.
He came in through the door. He came right over to my office, and I was pinned because it was like this with just one door. He came in, and I was on like high alert, like spidey senses, because I heard the door and I immediately felt the hostility. I read the room. I read the energy.
Right.
I immediately had a pair of scissors. He had me in the corner up against my desk, and he was coming for me with a knife.
Oh, goodness.
So I had the scissors and I pulled them out, and he was like, "You're not so-and-so." And I'm like, "No, I'm the new girl." And he was like, "Well, I want to know about my case, blah, blah, blah." So I'm like, "So you're just going to have to calm down so I can look this up, because if you're still like this, I can't get to my computer."
Right.
He didn't understand that I was going to be like I was.
Yeah.
And as soon as he backed off, I literally flipped my desk over and like pushed him out the door with it and closed the door. And then everyone else upstairs, they never knew what was going on downstairs because I was like below the parking lot. So I called them upstairs and I said, "You need to get the license plate to the car that just left. He just came in with a knife." I had no cameras. I had no bell to get to them. Nothing.
Wow.
He never bothered me again, but he would call and ask for me nicely.
But still, it could have turned into a really nasty situation.
It could have. I finally I turned my office around so that my desk was facing the door from there on out, because as soon as I would see who was coming, I could jump over my desk and close the door.
Yeah. No, it was. And besides the fact that it's ridiculous that a law firm, especially in this, anywhere from 2001 on, didn't have cameras and safety things to keep all the employees safe.
It was just me that wasn't. Everyone else was.
But yeah, you still needed to make sure that you were safe. That's key here. Wow. Well, that's at least you were able to read the room real quick and knew exactly what to do, because sometimes we read the room and we know something's happening, but we kind of get lost in the thought and not take action. So now you deciding to write a book?
So I was actually going to write a book about what we were discussing with the whole medical thing. Because I think it's very important for people not only to have insurance, but to make sure that they're well taken care of, because you, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, I always say that you only get one set of eyes, but you only get one body also. I mean, you can have
Mm-hmm.
replacement hips, you can have replacement hearts, you can, whatever, but you can't replace your entire body. So I think that that's really important. And I think that it will not only just include like how I became ill and how the doctors handled things, but the ability thing as well.
Right.
Because intuition is really important for everyone, and everyone has intuition. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care what anybody else says. I totally believe that.
I
Um,
do too.
but I have a book line that I've been writing, and I've been kind of like developing it in my head and the way I want it to look. And it's for children, but it's also for adults because they have to read to their children. So it's going to be with like all the like the monsters. So I'm going to have little Easter eggs in the book for the people that I love. So if it's like about my son, it's going to have him snowboarding or in his jersey from high school with the number on it, so he'll know it's for him.
Mm-hmm.
But the monsters are also going to be the Easter eggs as well, because the book is strictly going to be about how to have morals and ethics and
Mm-hmm.
values, and to teach kids manners, because if their parents aren't doing it, someone still has to do it. And it's not always going to be the teachers. So while the parents are reading these books to them, maybe they'll also learn their manners as well. But the monsters are going to be the people that are in my life,
Right.
who I grew up with, who I see every single day, the family members who don't act so nice, but, maybe like a Frankenstein who's not so nice, or a vampire, or, an energy vampire. But I think it will be a fun way to teach kids about those things, but also make it like the they're monsters. They
Mm-hmm.
are monsters. People who treat others with disrespect, or they're rude or negative or whatever,
Right.
they're the monsters in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, because even though as an adult it may seem so natural because it's happened so many times, but when you're a child, that a child needs to realize there's good in people. There's also not so good in people.
Yeah.
And not to not to realize that everybody is the same. It just depends on what path you decide to take.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple other ideas as well. I was going to write a whole series of government conspiracies. From small town to government agency.
Well, you have some of the
I
experience
actually have
behind.
some experience with some of it.
So, yeah, you may want to hide when you you publish that.
Glenda, honey, I don't hide from anything. I'm right out in the open on the front porch.
Yeah, well, I think they'll be very surprised that you did if you do get that out. There's a lot of people that would not expect that.
We are well, I think that you know this. We are living in one of the most corrupt states in the country, and I think I'm in one of the most corrupt counties in the in the area. So I really don't mind saying it.
Yeah, there's always loopholes, as I call them.
They love to find them. They really do.
Yeah. So now what I know that you have a business.
I do.
Yes.
It's a small business.
What do you want to tell us about it?
So when I got sick, I'm not somebody who just kind of sits around, but I also, there are days that I just can't get out of bed. Right. So, I kind of go with how I feel. Mm-hmm. And it started off with, me doing tarot card readings or doing some house parties, and people love it. It's like Reiki and readings, or I'll read for a kid's birthday party, or a lot of people are really getting into this stuff, and they're more and more people are starting to believe in it. So I really love doing what I do because it's fun. People love having fun by doing this. And I've even done it at weddings or baby showers or bridal showers or whatever. And I'm not the type of person who just sits down and reads a book on how to read tarot cards. I actually use my intuition. I don't go by the book. I see what I see in the cards first, and I go by that. So
I do the same thing. So
I love that. I love that you do that. The very first thing I ever did, and I have to give them a shout out, my girlfriend Mia and our girlfriend Rachel had her bridal shower. I read nonstop for like 75 women.
Oof.
The excitement in the room was insane. These women were awesome, and they were crazy at the same time, which is it's a good crazy. And like, they didn't even sit to eat. It was not, they brought their plates with them. Some of them had, and I love to have a positive spin on everything, and I don't use regular Rider-Waite cards. But there were two women that I gave not positive readings to. One was her sister was dying, and she needed to go to her right at that very. She literally walked out the door as soon as I got done with her. Her sister died the next day.
Oh.
Another woman, she came in and she asked about her cat, and her cat was dying. Like, it was just the craziest day. Everyone else had awesome readings. They really loved them. They were mind blown. The staff was coming to me at the end. They were getting cards. And that was the start of my business. And I had to figure out what the hell I was going to call it. And I just walked around the house and I was like, I'm terrible with names. I can't even name my animals, honestly. They all have literary names because I love to read. But I was like, how do I name this thing? And I don't want to name it like sea salt and sage or, like whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. All I know is that I'm a little witchy. And I went, ding. So it's A Lil Witchy. And then when I had myself on this site where it was like kind of advertising me, it said, do you want to add wedding officiating? And I was like, why didn't I think of this? I was a mayor. I officiated weddings. So I added it, and I was like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, all these people started asking, like, how far do you travel? What do you do? Do you dress up? Do you do themes? And I was like, I love to dress up. That's my favorite thing. I've done Viking weddings. I've done Victorian weddings. I've done vampire weddings. I've done everything. And it's so fun. It is so much. And these people, when people ask me, like, what do you love about what you do? Weddings. I love doing weddings. It's like working for Disney because no one's ever angry. It's the best day of their lives.
Yep.
I write them from scratch. I do them all myself. Every single one is different. And these people are so gracious, and they're so in love, and they're so sweet. I have little old ladies come up to me, and they hold my hand and they say, that's the best wedding I've ever heard. And they're crying and they love it so much. And it's very personal. And I don't believe in God. I'm a witch. I believe in many gods. I believe something's greater out there. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But just write a wedding that doesn't add an entity to it.
Right.
It's about these people, and it tells their whole love story. And I just love it. I love everything I do.
Good. Yes. My most memorable one was in a treehouse. I actually had to climb the steps, and they had a camera showing it on a big screen downstairs on the bottom of the tree so people can see it. But they wanted it because that's when they met. They were like 4 or 5 years old. That's when they met. They had a little tree house. So they recreated the tree house big enough to accommodate adults.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
love.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
So you officiate too?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love you, Glenda. You're my favorite.
That's what I say. We're so much alike. It's incredible.
You know, I cry at like every single wedding I do because I get to know these people on such a personal level. I've done their baby blessings. I've
Oh,
met their families. We go to their barbecues. We go to their birthday parties, their kids' birthday parties. We take our grandkids with us. Like they become our family. We've
mm-hmm.
adopted a dog from one of them. Like they're I keep all of their certificates in a drawer with their pictures,
Mm-hmm.
or like I was going to start putting them on cork boards but I've done so many of them that I just can't put them all over the walls, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
love them all so much. And some of them are very, very good friends.
Very good. That's what's important, right? It's not
Yeah,
just about the event and
it's
leave.
the
Like
people.
I see a lot of times the person comes in, okay, boom, 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 boom. Okay, you're married. I'm gonna go get a drink, and all of a sudden they disappear, and it's like, I mean, I could understand if they got another one or whatever, but I always felt like sharing
Yeah,
and the energy that creates, it just creates a bigger, nicer start for them,
yeah.
you know.
I love that. That's my favorite.
And it's interesting that you call it a little witch because little witchy because the area that we are in Pennsylvania, it's not always accepted, the
Yeah,
witchy part.
I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks of me because I've always hidden something about myself for so long. I was
Right.
bullied in junior high. I've had my hair lit on fire. I was pushed off the back of a set of bleachers. I had my arms slashed with knives. I I've had terrible things done to me. And you know what? I don't have that much longer, so I'm going to be me whether people like it or not. And you know what? If they
Very
don't,
good. That's what I call the Jersey girl salute, believe it
yes,
or not, because there's in North Jersey, there's that is like so common. It's so common. But I am so proud of that you know, just decided to be you. Not too many people,
time.
not too many people do it. Whether you have 2 days, because you never know. I mean, I could walk out of here and that would be it. One never knows. Being you, the authentic you, is very important.
It was tough growing up. I would be like, I was the abuse at home was bad, and then I'd go
Right,
to school and I'd get it. So there was never solace anywhere.
right.
So, you know what? For this to be this way now, it took 30 some years to get to the point where I could say that I'm good with myself.
Mm-hmm.
If people aren't good with me and they want to listen to other people, or if they want to make stuff up on their own and they don't come to me directly, too bad for them. They're missing out on something.
Exactly, exactly. Very well said. Very well said. So we're almost at the end of the show. Is there anything else you would like to share? I'm going to have all your links on the description so anybody can find you and they'll know now that's on the description. So,
Let's see. Well, just check out my links.
mhm.
If anybody ever needs any help with anything, especially um, with your medical information, I would be more than happy to help. I'm not a doctor. I will not cure you. I will not diagnose you, but I can lead you in the right direction.
Mhm.
Um, we are working on Escape from the Paranormal as we speak. We do have to put it off a little bit because it's blowing up into this huge thing, which is amazing. And we are getting ready to do something that's a secret. So that's going
Ooh,
to probably come first. And we do have actually we have two things that are going to be a secret, so I can't really say much about that, but when I do have information on it that I could share, I will absolutely do that.
oh, well, I can't wait. You got to tell us so you could come back and
Yeah,
share it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would love to come back anytime. And Glenda, we would love to have you too.
Thank you. Thank you. I would love to be there. So thank you. It was beautiful.
Thank you. I love being
Uh,
here.
thank you. Just hold on as I say good night to the audience. And thank you for being here. Thank you for following. And as always, I'm sending love and many blessings. Bye.